Hello, everybody. Once again, my name is Maria Majidova. I'm Secretary General of National Council from Azerbaijan or Nayora. And yesterday we have talked about youth work and the role of youth work in preventing the violent extremism and radicalization. And today we are going to talk about Module 4, which is about young people resilience and empowerment and how to build resilience in young people. I'm going to share with you my screen, and please let me know if you can see something. So, young people and resilience and empowerment part. So the content is today we'll start about to talk about the resilience itself, what it means to be resilient, what it means actually to fight and to be patient. Then we'll talk about young people's resilience to radicalization and how to build this resilience to radicalization. Then we'll talk about the empowerment of young people to act against radicalization and some things about inclusion and also participation. How actually, what is the role of inclusion and what is the role of participation in the prevention of violent radicalization, violent extremism and radicalization. And then if you have questions in the end, you can always ask. So first I wanted to talk about the inclusion, what actually it means to be included. Inclusion is a process of improving the terms on which individuals and groups take part in society, improving the ability, opportunity, and dignity of those disadvantaged on the basis of their identity. As I was talking before about the power of stereotypes and power of prejudice, that it actually influences really negatively on the process of inclusion and actually the role that inclusion plays in prevention of violent extremism and radicalization. As you know, there are still a lot of societies in the world that in the model of the system, in the model of the work, you cannot really follow the inclusion. Of course, there are integrated societies, there are segregated societies, there are a lot of separate societies which actually talk about more separation than inclusion. Having some kind of nation living or minority group living in your country, it doesn't mean that this society is inclusive already. The society which is inclusive usually doesn't judge or doesn't have any stereotypes on the basis of identity of other people. So integration is not the inclusion. The society, people can live and work in some society, and this means that they're integrated because they have the same opportunities, they have the same, law, rule of law, and they have the same rights. But when it comes to cultural basis, when it comes to identity, they are still not included. They are still getting judged and being stereotyped because of their identity. It doesn't matter if they still have the same rights, but these rights are not respected by other people around them and also by the system itself, even though it's written on the paper, even though they have these citizenships, or they have these opportunities to study, it doesn't mean that they're included in inclusive societies. So actually, and what is resilience, before we move to the role of resilience? It refers to a positive adaptation or ability to maintain or regain mental health or any other kind of physical health despite of the experiencing adversity. It's the ability to bounce back from adversity and successfully adapt to the demands of stressful situations. It means doesn't matter how much challenges you see on your way, you still don't give up, and you are building this immune system inside yourself that doesn't matter how much challenges you meet on the way, you are still being resilient. You have this, you are able to bounce back and successfully adapt to the demands of these stressful situations. Because the resilience is not an easy way. It's always hard to, especially when we fight radicalization and we fight extremism. Sometimes it's really demotivating what kind of comments you hear or what kind of feedbacks you get from people, especially with the target group you are working. And the third definition of resilience is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity. Research has shown that this resilience is ordinary. It's not extraordinary. So it's something that can be developed. You are not born with resilience, and you should know that you shouldn't say that, oh, I'm a weak person because I had a bad childhood, or, for example, I'm a woman, or my place is not, I don't have enough space to develop because I will be, fight it back because I'm a woman. People don't believe in me because I'm a woman and stuff like that. So these are all fears. These are all excuses that we bring. Me coming from Azerbaijan, a society where a lot of rights are violated for women and also for young people. In this society, I'm trying to fight for the last 7 years to make sure that I don't give up and I don't use any kind of demonstrations, that I use more the education. And I believe that the education is the best way actually to show the resilience, to never give up on the people and on your target group that you are working with. Yeah, I hear a lot of comments about human rights in my country that, yeah, for example, men can openly say that, yeah, but the place of women in the kitchen in the regions of Azerbaijan, and I go and I talk to them and I spend my days, hours in these regions to show my resilience and to prove the opposite to this man, and also to make sure that these women are more empowered in that places. And in the resilience process, in the end of the day, maybe I'm very tired emotionally and physically because I invested my time, I invested my energy in the people to understand why actually human rights are important and why human rights are human rights, and we cannot neglect this fact. This is one of the examples of the resilience that I have from my personal experience. And it's not a trait, and it has to be developed. It consists of thoughts, ideas, behaviors, and the most importantly, it consists of actions that can be learned by anyone. So that's a main goal of this actually all this training course, is how we're going to make sure that we as youth workers can develop this resilience first in ourselves, and then to develop this resilience in the target groups we are working with. So that's why they won't be, so this way they will not be so vulnerable when it comes to different terrorist groups and some religious groups of people who are fanatics or have a radical thoughts in their ideology. So this is clear, I hope, about resilience. Then there's empowerment, which is also very important if we really talk about fighting extremism and we talk about fighting radicalization. The term empowerment refers to measures designed to increase the degree of autonomy and self-determination in people and in communities in order to enable them to represent their interests in a responsible and self-determined way, acting on their own authority. It's the process of becoming stronger and more confident, especially in controlling one's life and claiming one's rights. And empowerment as an action refers both to the process of self-empowerment and to professional support of people, which enables them to overcome their sense of powerlessness and lack of influence, and to recognize and use their resources to work with power. So that's why it's empower. I hope that you still hear me well. Just want to check it again. Great. We can continue. And when we talk about empowerment, right, go back again. When we talk about empowerment, we shouldn't forget that it's in our actions and it's on a daily basis. And youth workers themselves should be empowered before they want to empower someone else. And this is actually very hard process, and it's very challenging process, because sometimes, as I mentioned before, because of maybe not achieving our goals as youth workers, or not getting appropriate answers from our stakeholders, we can get demotivated and we can get unempowered. But this is something that is within us, and I cannot tell you any tools which can actually always make you empowered, because this is impossible. Empowerment and motivation comes from within yourself, as like your happiness comes from within. And because people is the source which can always demotivate you. And if you, as a youth worker or any other young person, you can also use these terms when you talk to young people on the building resilience and empowerment. Yeah, a lot of people, especially in the network that we are working with, people can be different, values can be different. And you can get demotivated by someone's actions because their values don't reflect your expectations. And expectations are a very tricky thing. When you are having high expectations and some people don't meet your expectations, then you get demotivated, then you lose your empowerment. And that actually leads to your depression, and it leads to your, you become less motivated to actually continue your work. And the main advice from my side on the empowerment is that young people is a source of energy and the source of craziness and the source of new things and new ideas on a daily basis. And if we connect our motivation to people, then we're going to lose. So never, as a youth worker, connect your motivation to someone else, because in the end, people cannot meet your expectations. That's possible. And if your youth work depends on someone's mood or on someone's attitude, then you are not really empowered. So going back to what just I said, that empowerment comes within. And how you can develop empowerment from within, and how you can actually help others. When it comes to empowerment, there are a lot of books about self-determination, about self-confidence, about self-esteem, about self-understanding and self-discovery. There are a lot of practical tools that, as a youth worker, you are doing right now. The topics, the research, the trainings you deliver, the campaigns you organize, this all helps you to be empowered. It all helps you to make sure that the work you are doing are actually doing impact. The works that they're doing are actually having an impact on the society. And once you realize that the work you are doing is important for some other people around you, even for one person, it's already empowerment for you. I have delivered a lot of trainings. I have delivered trainings for example, 25 people, and some of them were frustrating, where I just had 1 or 2 person out of 25 who came to a realization. But I didn't give up, because even those 2 people are already an achievement for me as a youth worker. Because if I tried at least to change the mindset of people, and I tried to help others, and out of 25 people, 2 people got my point and came to some kind of self-realization and self-understanding, it's already a success for us. Because there are different groups of people, there are different targets of people we are working with, and we can't expect the same results from everyone. So don't lose your empowerment. Always know your audience whom you are working with as a youth worker, and also you can pass these messages to young people you are working with. And how to build resilience as youth workers. How, as youth workers, we can build resiliences. How we can make sure that the work we are doing actually does fight violent extremism and does fight radicalization. So the first is make connections. Make sure that you have connections on your local network, you have connections on the international network, and also on the regional network, because you can share a lot of success stories, and you can also help others to, get some information from you if they need it from you. And with connections, you can work a lot on the umbrella projects. You can get some good case practices. You can get to know bad case practices, which is actually also good experience to know and to have the power of stories. And also with the connections, you hear a lot of stories. You hear a lot of inspiring stories you can actually integrate your society and actually share with your society or the local community you are part of. Second is avoid seeing crisis as insurmountable problems. Like in easy language, let's say, avoid seeing crisis as a problem which is not cannot be solved. Crisis can be solved. Sometimes it can take time. It can be a financial crisis. It can be psychological crisis. It can be different kind of crises, and it can be an aggression that you can feel from people. So don't look at the crisis as an unsolved problem. Always try to look in the solution-oriented part. Only this way you can build a resilience as a youth worker. Then take decisive actions. So if you have decided something, make sure that you implement it and you actually put it in action, because sometimes we do plan a lot, we do have strategic plans, but when it comes to implementation, sometimes we lack this, doing part, we act this action part. And I think this is very important for a youth worker to know and to implement. Then look for opportunities for self-discovery in every training you deliver, in every campaign you organize, in every group or team you work with. Always seek for feedback from people. Always be open for ideas, and actually be open for the space that can help you to discover yourself as a youth worker, as a person, or as an individual. And nurture a positive view of yourself. Always make sure that you are nice to people, you are not aggressive, even though there are some moments that you want to shout out loud or cry on someone's shoulder. Try to be vulnerable with people from the same area of work with you. Be vulnerable with your youth workers. Try to share your concerns. Try to share your stories. And actually, there is a lot of people in the world who are in the same positions as we are, and they do understand us. We just need, seek for help. Keep things in perspective. Make sure that you have a short-term and long-term goals where you have different perspectives for every goal, and actually you look forward and you catch the perspectives from every angle that is of the situation that you are part of. Maintain a hopeful outlook, and always motivate your target group in a way that they talk about problems, talk about, be vulnerable, but also not forget to have a hopeful outlook. Try to make sure that whatever sentences you use, whatever campaigns you are doing, there is a positive message inside and there is a hopeful outlook inside it. Celebrate success, even small success that you have or with your target group, or in your work with your target group as a youth worker. Try to make sure that you celebrate every small success, because this matters. Recognition of yourself as a youth worker, recognition of your team as a youth worker, that matters a lot. And that creates more hopes, because when you have a positive environment, that for sure helps you to create more hopeful and more empowered outlook for the future. And of course, as a youth worker, we should always take care of ourselves and make sure that all the participants of our trainings, of our organizations we are working with, or our target group, always safe and have an environment where they can be themselves. The environment there, they can get enough sleep, they can get enough food, they can get enough of personal time, because this is very important, especially when we fight resilience, when we fight radicalization and violent extremism. Because with these target groups that we're working with as young people, it's always a challenge to identify how much personal space, let's say, alone time these people need. But for reflection, for sure, everyone needs an alone time. And sometimes, of course, it's a group reflection. Sometimes it's individual reflection. But I truly believe that individual reflection is also very important for youth worker on the work you are doing and on the tools that you are using, on the ways that you put in a nutshell the things that you have. So when you get the feedback from people, sit down for a day or two. I don't know how much you need. Maybe for some people it's 1 week, for some people it's 1 day, for some people it's 3-4 days. So it depends on you as a youth worker, and take care of yourself. Do the things that you makes your heart sing. Read some books that is not out of your work, so you can actually get relaxed, and you can actually make sure that you take care of your personality as well as of your professional life. Spend some time with your family and try to have your security, and try to make sure that as a youth worker you get also enough food, you get enough sleep, because if we don't have these factors, we are going to influence negatively on our health. Once, when 4 years ago, I had a very important project, actually projects in a row, and that was really hard for me because it was my new appointment as a head of an organization, and we had a transitional period, and I was traveling at the same time, so I was managing a lot of things alone, always on the phone, always on the laptop. And then at some point I went to the doctor because I was feeling really bad. I was very depressed and nervous and always, worried about life in general. And the doctor told me, you have a nervous system of a person who is 50 years old. Are you going to change the world? And I said, and my mom was also next to me. I said, Mom, she tells me that I can't change the world. And this moment, my mom told me, but just don't pay attention for them. They don't know how it means to fight, how it means to be resilient, how it means to really fight for the change in the world. And of course, I understood the point of the doctor. She was just not right in her expression when she said, are you going to change the world? But good, I had my support system. And I'll talk more about the support system for youth workers. And that moment I realized, yeah, maybe I'm not going to change the world, but I'm changing myself. I'm changing myself by developing others. I'm changing myself because I meet the challenges. And maybe this is a hard way, but I also understood that I should take care for my health, because if I start to be depressed, if I start to be nervous, if I start not to care about myself, then I cannot be as positive as I am. And I cannot spread this love and spread this care and spread this motivation to people around me. That's why this point of taking care of yourself as a youth worker is really, really important when it comes to fighting extremism and actually in daily life as well. And the last but not least, it's not in the presentation, but I would like to mention, is that always have your support system. It can be your family, it can be your friends, which is out of the youth work, or someone who is a part of youth work but really can't talk out of the work topics, where you can relax, where you can, reflect, and you can be yourself. And the support system that believes in you no matter what, and the support system that believes in you that the work you are doing is actually does have sense, even though it's a challenging and with work with ups and downs. And how to empower others around you, and including yourself as a young person. So the first comes that design and implement initiatives for engagement of individuals from violent extremism. Ensure that efforts to counter violent extremism are gender sensitive and utilize best practices on engaging women and girls. Promote community adoption of educational, social, and religious programs, because all those community adoption, educational, social, and religious programs always include the minority groups, LGBTIQ groups, and some other target groups, which disadvantaged group. Then strengthen the skills and capacity of community and religious leaders, because if we work on the skills and actually of these religious leaders, we can always prevent them from being radical, because they will be more self-aware, they will communicate with people, they will have more network. And since they are religious leaders and they have influence on the groups of young people or communities, they can also spread this message to those groups. So they are important figures for their groups as religious leaders. So this point is also very important when it comes to working in the communities and improving the skills of religious leaders. Address root grievances amongst young people that fuel the participation in violent extremism. Make sure that you involve in your community, involve other young people along with yourself when it comes to creating some campaign, social media, videos or messages, something that can make them to be empowered, something that they can feel that they are important for the society and they are fighting the extremism that they are not part of yet. So before actually they are being taken by some other radical groups, you can prevent it by including and being inclusive as a youth worker and attract different young people from the community you work with to fight against violent extremism. And actually, for this, you should prepare small presentations, I don't know, videos or flip chart presentations about violent extremism and radicalization, because for some people, it can be a normal. For radicalization, they even not realize that they are part of extremism. Sometimes they don't even realize they're part of radicalization. For them, it can be a daily life. So that's why it's always important to give the knowledge. If you really want people to be empowered, you need to give the knowledge first. Because when they are more knowledgeable about this topic, they become more self-aware about the topic. They can actually start to question the why of this situation and why of the maybe groups they are already part of. And if they are not yet, they can prevent themselves with the knowledge. And the last but not least is engage and strengthen family bonds and build support from parents and families for youth involvement in efforts to address extremist violence. Yeah, I really know that it's really hard to engage, parents, especially in regional or areas. They don't sometimes, because of the age of young people, they can give different examples. Oh, who you are to teach me something, and you are younger than me. You are not professional enough to show me something or to teach me the life. You don't know how life is hard, so we know the best for our kids. So you can really hear this kind of comments. And for this, I really suggest you to involve older youth workers who are at the age of those parents, who can have a peer-to-peer education with them, and it will help you to actually influence more on the mindset of parents than you actually can do it. Because as young people, we are less trusted than the youth workers who are older than us. And as I mentioned before, peer-to-peer support and peer-to-peer education is really important if you work also with groups of parents. And this is resilience is to be associated with the use of positive affect, making use of positive emotions. And you can see this personal, with open mind, with things to be fun. So it doesn't have to be negative. That these projects or campaigns shouldn't have to have any negative anticipation. So it always should be oriented on fun, on personal development, on right expectations. But you should always talk about the mistakes, about the setbacks, about the discomfort, and also fears. So this is not well, the picture. What you see on the picture is actually the whole picture of resilience and how it looks like when you try to explain it to others, especially to young people. And yeah, resilience is not a trait in the end, and people don't have resilience; they develop it. As you see, fish go in the same direction, and you can be this one fish which is against everyone. But once all those fish that you have on the left side also partly becomes part of you, then the resilience feels more comfortable, and the resilience feels more confident when you have more people around you. And developing resilience consists of behaviors, thoughts, and actions that can be learned by anyone. And this fish reminds me of a person who goes against mentality. Sometimes I can also associate this one fish with me and my friends. We fight a lot of mentality issues in our country. In post-Soviet countries, especially, there is a lot of gap in generations that we are more generational of independent country in Azerbaijan. Our parents and grandparents and generation of Soviet and communism. And it's really hard to integrate all this, and it's really hard to fight a lot of things. Mindset of young people, and but with the help of also practices and our self-esteem, we managed to help to change mindset of our parents and to make them more integrated in the European Union reality. We traveled with our parents. We showed them. We taught them English a bit. Now they're more integrated part of global community that they have been before. And this is all because we as young people didn't give up on changing the mindset of all the generations, even though it was really, really hard. But never give up and try to be resilient to make sure that you achieve your goals and to make sure that actually resilience can be developed. And you should always give this message to people who don't believe in themselves and who are really afraid to fight the community and fight the community rules. Because me personally, I have heard a lot from the participants, but yeah, Mariam, but this has been this way for 50 years and we cannot change anything and it will be like that forever. And it's really hard to fight that. But I truly believe that with knowledge, practical experience, and also empowerment, we can always fight and be resilient. Thank you for your time. I'm going to send you a quiz later on today, and I would be really happy if you can fill it in. And hope to see you once again. And if you have any questions, you can always write me on email or on Facebook. I'll try to reply. Thank you once again. My name is Maria Majidova. I'm Secretary General of National Youth Council from Azerbaijan.